All right, as we exit stop number 1, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you about a little work program that Sheriff Perry put together. See, if you had a job that required a little more muscle than you might have had on hand, you came down here to the old jail, had a chat with Sheriff Perry, and for a fee, he would put together a chain gang of sorts, put them out on the manly portable jail car to help you do the job. Now, essentially, the jail car was the predecessor to the prison bus, and nothing more, ladies and gentlemen. It did have a couple of differences, obviously, but predecessors usually do. For instance, a prison bus of today is powered by a gas-powered motor, or maybe a diesel-powered motor, and it usually brings you back to jail each night where you sleep. Now, the manly portable jail car, on the other hand, was powered by 2 oxen, ladies and gentlemen, and it is where you slept until such time as the job was done. If you look over here to your right-hand side, you'll see that black car with the latticework bars, property of the old jail 1916. That is the manly portable jail car. And ladies and gentlemen, I gotta tell you, you take one look at that, you can see there were very few creature comforts on board that car, but it didn't stop creatures from trying to comfort while you were sleeping, ladies and gentlemen. That's a fact. Now, having said that, sometimes that portable jail car might have been the better place to be, because if you've taken the tour of the old jail, you're well aware that the hey, how you doing? You're well aware, ladies and gentlemen, that the hey, I want to thank you very much. I appreciate that, ma'am. Good job. All right, ladies and gentlemen, she came around another car that was stopped trying to go left. So who was in the wrong, ladies and gentlemen? No offense or anything, but sometimes it gets to you with this heat. Now, having said that, I'd like to welcome you all to St. Augustine. We are the oldest European and African settlement in the United States today. That's right, we're 42 years older than Jamestown and 55 years older than Plymouth Rock. Only the Spanish colony of Puerto Rico was older. And speaking of Puerto Rico, ladies and gentlemen, there was a young explorer there by the name of Juan Ponce de Leon. Now, he was also the governor of Puerto Rico for a while. While he heard from the natives there that there was a fountain of eternal youth on the island of Bimini, which is just north of Puerto Rico. Well, Juan, he decided that he would put together a crew and set sail, ladies and gentlemen. And Juan, being the stellar explorer that he is, I'm sure it will come as no surprise to any of you, that he managed to miss Bimini altogether and land here instead on March 27, 1513, which was Easter Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. So he decided he would name this new land La Florida, which is Spanish for the Easter flower. But while he named it, he didn't actually get the credit for discovery of it. No. You see, there were well over 100,000 indigenous people already here to greet him. He did get the credit for discovering the Gulf Stream, though, and that's an important piece of history for St. Augustine. That enabled the Spaniards to ship their valuables such as gold and silver and even produce, ladies and gentlemen, back to Spain much more quickly and efficiently. For about the next 50 years, Spain tried to colonize La Florida, but to no avail, ladies and gentlemen. You see, the 100,000 people that were already here, they weren't interested in being found in the first place. Sure weren't interested in anything called colonization. And that, coupled with the fact that they had no roadmap to hurricane season, but they sure had a knack for showing up in front, made it tough. No, it wasn't until about 1564 that anybody had any luck colonizing, and then it turned out to be the French. And they colonized about 40 miles north of here, where Jacksonville is today. You know what they called it? They called it Fort Caroline, ladies and gentlemen. Now, when King Philip heard that the French had success where he did not, well, let's just say he was less than impressed. So he tapped his right-hand man, Admiral Pedro Menendez, and gave him 3 simple tasks. He said, eradicate the French, set up a permanent Spanish settlement, and convert all the indigenous people to Catholicism. Marching orders in hand, Pedro puts together a crew and set sail. Lands here in a horrific storm, ladies and gentlemen. It was a hurricane. So he decided he would send his galleon to seek safe harbor, march his men 40 miles north overland to mount a surprise attack. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when he arrived at Fort Caroline, he found the fort was lightly guarded, so he easily conquered it, and that's when he discovered why. See, the French, they had the same idea. They set sail in that storm with aspirations of their own of mounting a surprise attack on the Spaniards. Now, that being said, Pedro leaves a garrison behind in Fort Caroline and marches his men south, only to find that the French had been shipwrecked in the storm. So with the help of the Tamaican Indians, he rounded up the survivors, all 265 of or so, and asked them one simple question: will you convert to Catholicism? Their answer: no, ladies and gentlemen. So he put them to the sword. Now, a handful of them did say, yeah, I'll convert. They wanted to save their lives, ladies and gentlemen. And they did save their lives briefly, but as Pedro and his men started to run low on rations, well, they met the same fate anyway. That's when Pedro's next dilemma came, because you see, he needed a place to put 265 dead bodies. He wasn't going to take the time to bury them all, so he gave them a burial at sea of sorts, ladies and gentlemen. He put them into the Bay of the Dancing Dolphin. and it said that it made the bay run red for 3 whole days, ladies and gentlemen. So they went ahead and they changed the name from the Bay of the Dancing Dolphins to Matanzas Bay, which is Spanish for massacre. So Massacre Bay. Now, if you take a look over here to your left-hand side, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see a glimpse of Matanzas Bay, a.k.a. Bay of the Dancing Dolphins, a.k.a. Massacre Bay, right on the other side of that field over here on the left-hand side. Now we're coming up here on the Cubo line and the Rosario line. This is 2 low-cut walls of palm tree trunks. The Cubo line running east and west along the city, meeting up with the Rosario line, which ran north and south. Now these 2 walls encompass the entire city, creating a walled city. You know what that's called? It's called a presidio, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you take a look over here to your right-hand side, you're going to see a low-cut wall of palm tree trunks. That's a portion of the Cubo line, and it's flanked by these plants. Now these plants are called yucca plants. Another name for them is Spanish bayonets. Ladies and gentlemen, these are very, very short plants. They did this tactically. They were well aware that if you tried to crawl through these plants, that you would be cut to ribbons, ladies and gentlemen. That's why they did it. Now, this cross street right here is Cordova Street today, but back in the day, this is where the Rosario line intersected with the Cuba line, creating that walled city, otherwise known as a presidio. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we move through this intersection here, you're going to see another low-cut wall of palm tree trunks on the right-hand side. That one is called the San Domingo Redoubt. And the redoubt has notches cut in the walls, where they would put cannons that were manned 24/7, ladies and gentlemen. Now, having said that, if the height of that wall bothers anybody, you're not alone, because it bothered the heck out of me. So I actually pulled the supervisor aside when I first started working here, and the first thing I said, "What's the deal with the wall?" And he was like, "What are you saying? What do you mean?" I said, "Well, the height of it. That's the mainstay of St. Augustine back in the day, and they couldn't make that wall any taller than that." He said, "Oh, Joe, hey, the people back then, they were only 4 to 5 feet tall." But I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this happened real time. He's saying that, and before he could finish talking, here comes a 4-year-old on the backside. Doesn't even break a sweat. He comes over that wall, gone like a shot, ladies and gentlemen. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and the first thing he said is, "I got nothing." Now, if you look over here to your left, you're going to see the Orange City School. Now, that used to teach grades 1 to 12. And if you were a teacher or school bus driver here, you were lucky, because you could make about $20 a month. That's what my sister said anyway, that you were lucky, because you see, she's a teacher in the Carolinas, and I told her the story, and she wanted me to sign her up. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that school also has a designation of being one of the only buildings in St. Augustine that has a cellar. Why? Because it was built on a moat, ladies and gentlemen, but that's not where they put the science lab. No, they put the science lab on the roof. They weren't going to out, so let the kids blow something up or burn something down and take the whole building with them. Over here on your right, you're going to see the historic downtown parking garage, ladies and gentlemen. Now, stay with me here, all right? There's nothing whatsoever historic about the historic downtown parking garage. It's a myth, ladies and gentlemen. But the land that it's built on, you could make a case for that. See, that's where the San Marco Hotel used to sit, and that was the first grand hotel. Grand it was, ladies and gentlemen. This place had hot and cold running water, steam heat, and Otis elevators back in the day. It was 250 feet long, 5 stories tall, and it boasted 325 rooms. Now, I got to be honest, that's a lot of rooms even by today's standards, ladies and gentlemen. This place also had 3 towers across its base. The tallest one was 8 stories tall, and it was said that that could be seen for up to 16 miles out to sea. Sorry about that. And if you look over here to your right-hand side or left-hand side, you're going to see the Renaissance Hotel, which is a scaled-down replica of what the San Marco used to look like, ladies and gentlemen. Now, having said that, the San Marco must have been a beast, because this is a scaled-down replica. This is a massive hotel right here in and of its own right. Now, having said that, ladies and gentlemen, San Marco burned down about 3 years after it was built. It was a mysterious fire. To this day, they don't know the cause of the blaze. I will tell you, though, it was right around the time Henry Flagler opened his flagship hotel. And while there is no connection, I'm not making any accusations, merely observations, ladies and gentlemen. It is interesting that it was a mysterious fire and that they never did find the cause of the blaze. Now, we're coming up here on the Visitor Center, which is stop number 2 on the tour. And there's a museum in there, ladies and gentlemen. It's a self-guided tour. You can learn quite a bit about St. Augustine just from that museum. It's also a free tour. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's also a snack bar in there where you get something to eat or drink, some restrooms, and a ticket booth where you can get tickets to any and all of our attractions. You're going to be disembarking at stop number 2. Please wait for me to come to a complete stop and ring the bell. Then use the handhelds and uprights, backing down like you would back down a ladder. Left-hand side only at this stop, ladies and gentlemen. Left-hand side only. Stop number 2, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you about some Scott-Irish immigrants that came over in the early 1700s. The Spanish dubbed them el craqueros, or crackers for short, and they did so because of the bullwhips they brought with them. You You see, these people were cattle farmers. They had these huge bullets. It was said that when they would crack them, they could be heard from well over a mile away. Hence the term, head of the crack arrows. Now the crackers, they also brought along several dishes they used to like to eat. One of them was called swamp cabbage. Now to attain swamp cabbage, ladies and gentlemen, you have to drop a sable palm tree and take the heart of it out and boil it. I'm sure there are seasonings that need to go with this recipe, ladies and gentlemen, but we don't know what they are. That's where the recipe kind of falls flat. I will tell you this though, if you'd like to have a little fun while you're here in town, next time you go into a restaurant, ask them, hey, you got swamp cabbage on the menu? They're gonna snicker a little bit at you, ladies and gentlemen. They're probably gonna tell you no. What about for a blue plate special sometime? If you say that to them, ladies and gentlemen, they're gonna know you were on my trolley. But having said that, it does beg the question, doesn't it? If this was such a good recipe, what happened to it? Excuse me, I swallowed wrong. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a sable palm tree over here on the right-hand side, this row of them. That is the state tree of Florida today, and I know what you're thinking because I thought it too. State tree, can't drop it. There's the recipe that went. That's where it went. No, it is a state tree, but it's not protected in that way. You can't drop it. I looked it up, ladies and gentlemen. It's not protected. So it could be on a menu, and if anybody has a recipe for it, I would love to hear it because I would like to try this recipe. I talk about it day in and day out. It's just something I think I should try. Now, if you look over here to your right-hand side, you're going to see the Huguenot Cemetery. There's only 90 headstones in there, but that's deceiving. There's well over 2,000 people in there. See, back in 1821, there was a yellow fever epidemic that wiped out a third of the population here in town. If you were not Catholic, they buried you in this cemetery. Now, they dug the holes wide, they dug the holes deep, but then they would put 15 to 20 bodies in each hole. And if you happen to be the lucky soul on top, well, winner, chicken dinner, ladies and gentlemen, you got your name on the headstone. Now, having said that, ladies and gentlemen, down here on the left-hand side, you're going to see Potter's Wax Museum and the old drugstore. Now, C.W. Spicinger, he was the pharmacist at the drugstore, and he had a concoction, and he would tell you it cures death, all right? So no matter what you got, it's going to cure it because it can bring you back, right? Now, having said that, ladies and gentlemen, the concoction was an interesting one because it was mixed. It was a mix of spring water and grain alcohol, and then for kick, ladies and gentlemen, because, well, grain alcohol, I guess, doesn't have enough kick, he would add opium. Now, opium, whether or not it cured anybody, jury's still out. But my guess is, ladies and gentlemen, that it didn't cure anybody. But I do know that TW, he got a lot of repeat customers out of the deal. Now we're coming up here on the Potter's Wax Museum, and inside here you'll see well over 160 wax figures. Everything from Freddy Krueger to a modern day politician, ladies and gentlemen, to Darth Vader. Now, would you all agree with me that the politician's the scariest one in that bunch?
Yeah.
And over here to your right-hand side, or dead ahead, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see the Talamato Cemetery now. Back in the day, the Talamato Cemetery is where you were buried if you were a Catholic. There's also several Seminole warrior chiefs buried in there, and if you'd like to know more about the Talamato, grab a ticket up here at our ticket booth to our Ghost and Gravestones tour. They can help you dig up the dirt on the Talamato. You can also get tickets to Potter's or any of the rest of our attractions from up here. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to be disembarking at this stop, please wait for me to come to the complete stop and ring the bell. Then use the handhelds and uprights backing down like you would back down a ladder. Either side is okay at this stop, ladies and gentlemen.
You enjoying this so far?
Yeah.
What do you think? What? You enjoying this?
Okay, I was just thinking to myself, sometimes it gets hot and I go, did I ring it or didn't I ring it? So I just wanted to make sure I did. All right, now those two seats are fine for now, but if I get somebody who needs a lift, I'll have to ask you to change seats. So, all right. Stop 14? Well, this is stop number 3, and I just started today, so at least an hour. So, all right, but if you get off, if you're trying to beat the clock, if you get off at stop number 7 and walk 2 blocks to your left up 2 blocks to your left, you can. It's right there at the end of that second block. 2 blocks to the left, and that street will come to your tour guide. Please keep your arms and legs inside. Please, no smoking, vaping, or consumption of alcohol. Please keep your conversations to a minimum. Are y'all joining us? No, there's 2 more people. Oh. All right, no more on, no more off. This trolley is now in motion. So we exit stop number 3, ladies and gentlemen. If you look over here to your right-hand side, you'll see statue of a man sitting on a bench. His name is Henry Flagler. Now, Henry, he made a good portion of his fortune in Standard Oil with J.D. Rockefeller, and then he used that money to mold this town into what you see today. Make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, this town was molded in his image. He used this town like a chessboard. He moved the pieces around as such. Now, it wasn't free. Every time he moved a piece, it cost him money, but he got a town molded in his image, which is what he was shooting for in the first place. And we're going to dive deep into Henry's history here in a little bit, and now you have a face to put with the name when we do. And for those of you that are racking your brain trying to figure out Standard Oil, why does it sound familiar? It's ExxonMobil today, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're coming up here on stop number 4, which is the which is the city gates. And the city gates, ladies and gentlemen, they used to lock these things down at dusk. If you were on the outside of them, you were sleeping with the critters, the snakes and the mosquitoes, the alligators, the lions, the tigers, and the bears, ladies and gentlemen. But so the rule of thumb back then, make sure you're on the inside of the city gates at dusk so you didn't have to wait till dawn the next day to get in. Now, having said that, the Daughters of the American Revolution saved these gates. You see, they saw them as an eyesore, and they wanted to have them removed. That was St. Augustine that saw them that way. The Daughters of the American Revolution said, no, you're crazy. They're not an eyesore. They're a monument. So they came out here in their Sunday best. They sold enough tea and crumpets, ladies and gentlemen, to raise enough money to keep those gates right where they are. Now, if you're going to be disembarking at stop number 4, please wait for me to come to a complete stop and ring the bell. Then use the handhelds and uprights backing down like you back down a ladder. Only back down, ladies and gentlemen, to the right-hand side of this stop, only to the right-hand side. As you can see, we've got a ticket booth here at stop number 4. We can get tickets to any and all of our attractions. Some of the ones that come to mind are the City Gates Distillery, the Colonial Court, the Pirates Museum, and the oldest school. No more on, no more off. This trolley's now in motion, ladies and gentlemen. All right, as we exit stop number 4, ladies and gentlemen, we're now headed for the Colonial Quarter and the Pirates Museum, stop number 5. Now, at stop number 5, you can watch a blacksmith make a nail. You can also see them fire off a cannon, ladies and gentlemen. Now, they've also got a Spanish galleon in there. It's half-built. It's a life-size model, and it's really kind of cool. They built it halfway purposely. That way you can see below deck, see how a Spanish galleon is put together. There's a tower here that's 32 feet tall as well. Ladies and gentlemen, overlooks the bay, and you can get some beautiful pictures from that tower. Now, at the Pirates Museum, you can see one of only 3 Jolly Roger flags known to exist. We're talking about the real things, not replicas, ladies and gentlemen. And there's also the only pirate's treasure chest known to exist, and Captain Jack Sparrow's sword. That's right, Johnny Depp himself came here and donated his sword for the original Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and it's on display here in the Pirates Museum. All right, now having said that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to be disembarking at stop number 5, please wait for me to come to the complete stop ring the bell. Then use the handhelds and then press backing down like we back down a ladder. Only back down to the right-hand side of this stop, ladies and gentlemen, only to the right-hand side. All right, for those of you just joining us, and I see a few of you still are, my name is Joe Rock, and I'll be your tour guide. Please keep your arms and legs inside, no smoking, vaping, or consumption of alcohol. Please keep your conversations to a minimum. When you hear the bell, ladies and gentlemen, this trolley will be in motion, which means no more on, no more off, till you hear the bell at the next stop. Is everybody good? Whoop. One more. All right. Everybody good? No more on, no more off. Trolley's in motion. How you doing? All right, as we exit stop number 5, ladies and gentlemen, we're now headed for the bayfront. If you've got the munchies, you're in the right spot. You can't go wrong with the bayfront. Every restaurant up here is good. You just have to decide what you're hungry for, and that will point you in the right direction. Now, right over here on the right-hand side, you've got a River and Fort. Now, River and Fort, ladies and gentlemen, has a full menu inside, but you can see they've also got a rooftop lounge. They serve flatbread pizza up there, and you've got a beautiful day of the bay. Beautiful view of the bay while you're eating it. Now, Meehan's around the corner is an Irish pub, and they've got a really good food, as well as Harry's, which is a seafood restaurant. I'll tell you what, the seafood in there is top notch, ladies and gentlemen. And then at the end of the block, you've got Casa Reina, which is a Mexican restaurant / tequila bar. Now, if you look over to your left, you will see the Matanzas Bay Inlet. That is where the water meets the sky out here, ladies and gentlemen. And it's a very, very treacherous natural coral reef back in the day. But the Army Corps of Engineers, they came out, they dredged it in the 1960s, making it safe for all the boat traffic that you see out there now. Now, if you're going to be disembarking at stop number 6, please wait for me to come to a complete stop and ring the bell. Then use the handhelds and uprights backing down like you would back down a ladder. Only, ladies and gentlemen, back down to the right-hand side of this stop. Only the right-hand side. Let you in on a little secret about St. Augustine. See, there's this guy. He hides around the corner. He watches the trolleys. He waits for somebody to get off on the wrong side. Then he comes screaming around the corner to pick you off, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not let it happen today. All right. Everybody good? No more on, no more off. Trolley's in motion. My name is Joe Rock. I'll be your tour guide. Please keep your arms and legs inside. No smoking, vaping, or consumption of alcohol. Please keep your conversation to a minimum. All right, as we exit stop number 6, we're now headed for stop number 7, which is Hippolyta and St. George Street, ladies and gentlemen. Now, first thing you're probably going to notice about Hippolyta Street is how narrow it is. I got to tell you, that's what I noticed. They said, drive trolley up here. I went, okay, gotcha. It does get easier with time, ladies and gentlemen. Now, they did this for 2 reasons, and one of them is tactical. I want you to imagine yourself, you're the general of your own army, and you're marching your troops down through these corridors. If this doesn't make you nervous, then you've got ice in your veins, ladies and gentlemen. Because you're a sitting duck out here, and it's like shooting fish in a barrel. Now, the other reason they did this was for air conditioning. You see, they found that when they had these nice tight corridors, it would funnel the nice cool air off the bay, right down through here, into these dwellings. Why? Because back then these dwellings were single floor flat top lawns with courtyard entrances and no glass in the windows to stop that cool air from coming in. But without any glass, ladies and gentlemen, they didn't stop anything from coming in. So bugs would also join you. So when you would enter through the courtyard, you would see a fire pit. Normally it was burning. And as it was burning, ladies and gentlemen, the smoke from the fire would drive the bugs out, but it also drove their lungs out, ladies and gentlemen. These people did not live very long. Now, up here on the right-hand side, you're going to see a hole in this white wall. And, ladies and gentlemen, in the hole, you'll see little wooden slats. That's what the windows used to look like before the British arrived. Now, when the British arrived, they're the ones who added the second floors and the front doors. They also put the glass in the windows, ladies and gentlemen, which was normally fixed glass. And being fixed glass, well, it didn't open or close, but which did fix the bug problem, but did nothing for the air conditioning, which was the primary function of the open windows in the first place. Now, we're coming up on Hippolyta and St. George Street, stop number 7 on the tour, ladies and gentlemen. And down to your right, you've got the oldest schoolhouse museum, you've got the shipwreck museum, and on the corner here, you've got Columbia, which is a good place to get yourself something to eat. On the left, if you go down about 2 blocks, you'll see the stop number 14, which is where the beach bus starts and stops from every hour and a half hour, taking you across the Bridge of Lions to the alligator farm. Not to mention there's also the Prohibition Kitchen up there and a Mexican restaurant where you can get yourself a burrito called the UFO. You're going to be disembarking at stop number 7. Please wait for me to come to a complete stop and ring the bell. Then use the handhelds and uprights, backing down like you would back down a ladder. Either side is okay at this stop, ladies and gentlemen. Either side. To where? Stop number 1? Well, this can be your tour guide. Please keep your arms and legs inside. No smoking, vaping, or consumption of alcohol. And please keep, oh, thank you, ma'am. I do appreciate the tip. Thank you. All right, is everybody good? No more on, no more off. This trolley's now in motion. All right, as we exit stop number 7, ladies and gentlemen, as we move through this intersection, we're now entering the Menorcan Quarter. Menorca is an island in the Mediterranean Sea east of Spain. Andrew Turnbull, he was a plantation owner about 60 miles south of here where New Smyrna is today. Now he traveled to Menorca and brought back several Menorcans to become indentured servants on his plantation. But ladies and gentlemen, his plantation failed. Andrew was a very bad plantation owner. And so several Menorcans passed away of starvation. The ones who didn't, they followed Father Campus on a 60-mile trek north back up here to St. Augustine. And they settled right here in the quarter that we're driving through today. That is an important piece of history for St. Augustine. It's because of this that we can lay claim to the statement that we are the oldest continuous European and African settlement in the United States today. Had they passed away on the plantation, passed away on the trip back, or just plain decided to heck with it, I'm staying right here, pitching my tent, I'm tired. We wouldn't be able to make that statement, but they didn't. and we can. Now, ladies and gentlemen, down here at the end of the block on the right-hand side where those three American flags are flying, that's an example of a cracker house. All right? Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a replica or a remake. This is the real thing. This is where they live, ladies and gentlemen. Now, before or since then, they've been several restaurants in there. The last one still scars it, and it's the name Scarlett O'Hara's on there, ladies and gentlemen. And it's my understanding that they are going to put in a series of bars, but they haven't told us what the name of it's going to be yet. So I'm still calling it the Cracker House, ladies and gentlemen. And as you can see, there's security guards standing on the front porch there. I call them Slim, ladies and gentlemen. Now, what got me most about this place on the right-hand side was the size. Most of the dwellings you're going to see from that era, they weren't anywhere close to that large. All right, as we round this next corner, we're now entering the Gilded Age of Henry Flagler. Now, as I told you before, Henry, he used this property, or he used this town like it was his own personal chessboard, moving the pieces around as such. And on the site of his second hotel, there was a church called the Olivet Methodist Church, and Henry needed the land, so he made a deal with the congregation that got him that land. You see, he told them that he would build them a new church if they would go ahead and give him the old one, and that's what they did, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you look to your right, you're going to see the Grace United Methodist Church. That's the church Henry built for them. That church cost Henry $84,000 to build. The property he received in return was valued at about $4,000, ladies and gentlemen. He still had to knock a building down. I thought Henry wasn't a very good negotiator when I heard this for the first time. And ladies and gentlemen, I was wrong. I've seen the property since then. I've seen his vision for it. It totally changed my mind. So if you're thinking the way I was at this point in the tour, I'm going to show you that same property in a little bit, see if we can't change your mind as well. Now, the Baptists heard Henry was building churches, and they said, Henry, will you build us a church? Henry said, no. But if you can raise the money and build it in a 3-year period, I will give you the land. And they did, ladies and gentlemen. They raised $10,000 and built the Ancient City Baptist Church over here on your right-hand side. Now, the big, beautiful bell tower out front, ladies and gentlemen, it's a crying shame, but that tower has never seen or heard a bell. You see, Henry told the congregation when he saw the bell tower, no, stipulation of the contract, you can't put a bell in that tower. Why he said it, ladies and gentlemen, we don't know. But here's what I will tell you. The congregation were like, hey, don't forget, he gave us the land. So they felt that it was a no-bell cause, ladies and gentlemen. Also gives St. Augustine the distinction of having his first Nobel Prize. I'm here all week. Now, the Flagler Presbyterian Memorial Church over here on the right-hand side, in my eyes, is the prettiest church of the three I've shown you, but it also has the darkest story to tell. You see, Jenny Louise was Henry's daughter, and she passed away, giving birth to his granddaughter, baby Marjorie, who lived for a few hours and passed away herself. And that shook Henry up. So he told the congregation, look, build a church in a year's time so that we can hold a memorial service on the 1-year anniversary of their passing, and I will give you the church. And they did, ladies and gentlemen. They set to work and they built this church in 361 days. Try that today, ladies and gentlemen. 361 days later, you'll be lucky to have a permit in hands. Now, we're going to be, if you're going to be disembarking at stop number 8, please wait for me to come to it. Please stop, ring the bell. Then use the handhelds and uprights backing down like you would back down a ladder. Only back down, ladies and gentlemen, to the right-hand side of the stop. Only to the right-hand side. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I started to tell you before, Henry Flagler, he is entombed in this church, along with his first wife. So are Jenny Louise with baby Marjorie in her arms, and there's one empty tomb. That was for Henry's son. Now, Henry's son didn't hold with a lot of Henry's ideals, and he moved to New York early on. So when he passed away, he was in New York, and that's where he was buried. So one empty tomb. If you think this church is beautiful on the outside, ladies and gentlemen, I'm right there with you. I already told you I think it's the prettiest one of the three I've shown you, but you haven't seen anything yet. Take a tour of the inside. It is gorgeous. All right, for those of you just joining us, my name is Joe Rock, and I'll be your tour guide. Please keep your arms and legs inside. No smoking, vaping, or consumption of alcohol. Please keep your conversations to a minimum when you hear the bell. This trolley will be in motion, ladies and gentlemen. This means no more on, no more off until you hear the bell at the next stop. This is Jerry, ladies and gentlemen. All right, no more on, no more off. This trolley's now in motion. All right, as we exit stop number 8, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you a little bit about Flagler College over here on our left-hand side, soon to be our right. Now, Before this was Flagler College, this was the Juan Ponce de Leon Hotel, ladies and gentlemen. Henry Flagler's flagship hotel. And I gotta tell you, everything about this place is a cut above, ladies and gentlemen. There's no two ways to describe it better than that. I mean, this place right here is a functional work of art. That's how I describe it. I mean, you can take a look at the smokestack for starters. I mean, who does that? Most smokestacks are just billow smoke. This one's got a little bit of pizzazz. It's a little artwork to it, ladies and gentlemen. Now, having said that, ladies and gentlemen, this place was also way ahead of its time in the electricity department. You see, it had electricity 3 years before the White House did. Thomas Edison put it in. Yeah, Thomas Edison. Now, he also put in the 4 coal-burning generators that generated the electricity here, hence the smokestack. But Henry's problem came with the electricity. You see, Henry was well aware people were afraid of it. Now, they liked the convenience, but he actually had to hire people called switchers to do the job. I mean, and their job was basically to come to your room and switch the electricity on. And then they'd come back to your room when you were done with it and switch the electricity off, ladies and gentlemen. Now, how many of y'all would like to have seen the labor-intensive training program went into that job description? Now, ladies and gentlemen, Henry was also the father of the snowbirds, and rightfully so. I mean, when you stayed in this hotel, you didn't do it for a day or a week. You did it for a season at a time, and it wasn't cheap, ladies and gentlemen, to stay here. Matter of fact, it cost you $9,000 to stay here for the season. $9 grand, ladies and gentlemen. Now, that's a lot of money by today's standards. It was a whole lot of money back then. Let's make no mistake about it. The Juan Ponce de Leon Hotel was for the elite, and the elite only. Now look at the rounded section of the building over here on your right. That's called the Rotunda, ladies and gentlemen. It's where the original, where the restaurant used to be for the hotel and where the cafeteria is today for the college. But pay attention to the windows in there. You see, that's 70 panes of stained glass, all installed by Louis Comfort Tiffany himself. Now, the glass in front of it, the bulletproof glass that's reflecting back, making that glass hard to see, ladies and gentlemen, that's on the inside and the outside. It's there to protect the investment, ladies and gentlemen. You see, that glass is insured for $130 million in today's money. It's in a college. It's still intact, ladies and gentlemen. That in and of itself, bulletproof glass or not, is a feat. But, as I said before, ladies and gentlemen, this is not your ordinary college. No. As a matter of fact, as I said, it is a functional work of art and should be treated as such. If you get a chance to take this tour, do it. You won't regret it. The crown jewel of the tour for me, you get to go into that cafeteria and you're up close and personal with that stained glass. Bring your camera, get some pictures with the lights coming through and somebody else. It's sheer showstopper, ladies and gentlemen. It really is. Now, if you wanted to stay in this hotel for free back in the day, all you had to do is become president of the United States. 5 city presidents did stay here. The last one was Lyndon Baines Johnson. And the generators that used to generate the electricity here, they're on display at the Smithsonian Institute while we're on the subject of Washington, D.C. So you might want to journey up that way and have a gander at one of those in the Smithsonian. But while you're there, don't forget to wave hello to the familiar green and orange trolley drivers driving around town. Now, that statue of Henry Flagler there, he's admiring the Villa Zareta, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Well, because Franklin Smith, when he built it right. He used a brand new substance nobody'd ever seen or heard of before. It was called poured concrete, and that's what Henry's admiring. He could see from over there across the street that that's not gonna, thank you, it's not gonna blow down in a hurricane. It's not gonna burn down like the San Marco did. So Franklin, please teach my men how to pour concrete. Franklin did, ladies and gentlemen. That's why each and every one of Henry's buildings is made out of it. But now that we're close enough to take a good look, it's different, isn't it? It's got a layered look like a wedding cake. That's because there's no rebar in there. They use these wood plates, and right before it would cure, they would pull that plate out, knock it loose, move it to the next section. That's what gives it that layered look. Now, the Villa Zareta today is a museum, and it's a self-guided tour. They've got a box that speaks 5 different languages. They'll give you that box. You take it at your own pace. Pause it if there's something that you want to look at longer. When you hit play, it'll start right back up where you left off. Now, there is a rug hanging in this museum, and it's 2,400 years old. It's Egyptian, and it's made of real cat fur. And like everything Egyptian, ladies and gentlemen, it's got a curse on it. All right, it said that if you move the rug, somebody gonna die. And they did move it once to clean it, and the next day they found a dead cat on the front step. Now, if you're going to be disembarking at stop number 9, please wait for me to come to a complete stop and give you a verbal cue. Then use the handhelds and uprights backing down like you would back down a ladder. Verbal cue, ladies and gentlemen, is ding ding. I'm not allowed to ring the bell at this time. All right, I see you're in the ADA, and that's okay for now, but if I get somebody who needs the lift, I'll have to ask you to change seats. You're fine now. If I get something, my name is Joe Rock. I'll be your tour guide. Please keep your arms and legs inside. No smoking, vaping, or consumption of alcohol. Please keep your conversation to a minimum. When you hear the bell, ladies and gentlemen, this trolley will be in, or no, you won't. You're not going to hear the bell this time. You're going to hear a verbal cue. Ding, ding, ladies and gentlemen. This trolley is now in motion. All right, as we exit stop number 9, we're now headed for stop number 10, which is the Alcazar Hotel, a.k.a. the Leitner Museum. Now, the Alcazar Hotel, ladies and gentlemen, was Henry's second hotel, and he built it with nightlife in mind. As I told you earlier, at stop number 4, they were closing the city gates down at dusk. Then they were rolling up the streets and going to bed. There was nothing to do in town. It was boring. But you just paid $9 grand to stay here for a season. You didn't pay for boring. You want nightlife. Henry realized this, and he addressed the issue by building the Alcazar and packing it full of nightlife things to do. Now, then he put the Alcazar right across the street from his flagship hotel so people wouldn't have far to go for the nightlife that he put in there. Now, before I get into some of the things that he actually put in there, I want to point out this fountain right here. That's where the Olivet Church used to sit. Now, that's the $4,000 piece of property he received in return for the Grace United Methodist Church. So now that you've seen it, and you've seen his vision, what do you think? Did he make a good deal? I mean, in my eyes, I'm going to have to say yes, ladies and gentlemen, because otherwise you've got a building sitting between your two flagship hotels blocking the view. And whether you come to the realization or not, ladies and gentlemen, yet, I promise you, if you haven't, you will by the end of this tour. Henry Flagler, he doesn't operate that way. He just does not. Now, Otto Leitner bought the Alcazar from Henry in 1948, and he turned it into the Leitner Museum. Why? Because Otto was the editor of Hobbyist magazine, and he had a curious hobby of his own. He used to like to collect other people's collections. Now that's something that makes you run out of room fairly quickly. So you got to have a big place to put those collections, and he decided the Alcazar would be it. Now, having said that, he went ahead and put all of his collections inside and then opened the doors, and the rest is history. But if you want to see some cool stuff, ladies and gentlemen, it's all in the Alcazar, really cool stuff. The top floor alone is a Victorian furniture collection that's second to none. It takes up the whole top floor. It's beautiful. And then he surrounded that by pianos, grand pianos, baby grand pianos. The woodwork on these pianos is exquisite. Now, having said that, the second floor is a crystal collection like none other I've ever seen as well. I mean, he's got goblets in there, he's got chandeliers, he's got floor-to-ceiling crystal lamps, just beautiful stuff. Now, if you're going to be disembarking at stop number 10, please wait for me to come to a complete stop, ring the bell, then use the handhelds and uprights backing down like you would back down a ladder. Either side is okay at this stop, ladies and gentlemen, either side. Conversations to a minimum when you hear the bell. This trolley will be in motion, which means no more on, no more off until you hear the bell at the next stop, ladies and gentlemen.
Here we go. Here we go.
All right, everybody good? No more on, no more off. This trolley's now in motion. All right, remember that nightlife I told you Henry put into the Alcazar? Well, let's talk about it a little bit. You see, amongst the several bars, he also put in a casino. As a matter of fact, the roulette wheel for the casino is still on display in here. It's one of the few things not part of a collection. Then he put in a bowling alley and a full-blown theater complete with floodlights, Turkish bass and Russian bass. And he also put in, ladies and gentlemen, the first indoor in-ground pool of its kind in the state of Florida. And it said that you could swim in the pool and listen to the orchestras from the balconies above. And ladies and gentlemen, you could. If you take the tour, that comes into view real quick. But ladies and gentlemen, I haven't figured out a way to bring that outside to you. So I haven't figured out without visual. All I can say is take the tour. Now if you look over here to your left-hand side, you will see this is where the deep end of the pool is. And it spanned this entire corridor all the way down here to the bump out. That's where the shallow end was. So you could see, by today's standards, one massive, massive undertaking. Now today they don't use the pool as a pool. As a matter of fact, the deep end is a restaurant. You can eat in the deep end, ladies and gentlemen. Now, having said that, they say the food is very, very good. You do have to have a reservation to eat there, and I haven't had the opportunity to do that, but I've heard so. But I've heard the food is good from other trolley drivers. But each and every one of those other trolley drivers, they all said the same thing. Be careful if you order the water. Remember where you are. You're in the deep end, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you look over here to your left, you're going to see what used to be the tennis courts. Now it's a parking lot, ladies and gentlemen. But, ladies, you were not allowed to play tennis back in the day. You were not allowed to show your ankles. And the building at the end of the block, that's where the original DMV was. Now, if you had a bicycle and you were caught riding around town without it, you could end up spending a stint in the old jail. So you would come down here to the DMV in your car, get your bicycle license, go home and ride your bike anywhere in town you wanted. The car, on the other hand, drive it all day long. Didn't require a license. Only the bicycle did. Now, as we round this next corner, we're entering Lincolnville, and that's the home to the Civil Rights Museum. And if you take a look over here to your left-hand side, just past Dog Rose Brewing, you're going to see that museum, ladies and gentlemen. Now, some of the things in the Civil Rights Museum, well, there's a rap sheet on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., complete with fingerprints. There's also a grand piano that was played by Mr. Ray Charles himself in one of the Oddfellows houses down here. And the red building with the white building with the red trim, ladies and gentlemen, that building belongs to Miss Cora Tyson. And Cora just turned 100 years old on June 1st of this year, ladies and gentlemen. She used to host Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when he would come to town. As a matter of fact, he signed her family Bible, and it's on display in the Civil Rights Museum. But my favorite story about Cora, ladies and gentlemen, I've seen her a few times since I've been working here. I've seen her bringing in the mail. I've seen her gardening in the mornings. I mean, she gets around well for a 100-year-old lady, ladies and gentlemen. But my favorite story was on her birthday itself. You see, I came around the corner, first trolley of the day. She's sitting on the front porch, sipping on some sweet tea with family members, ladies and gentlemen. So I got a chance to slow the trolley, and we all got to sing happy birthday to her. Now this cross street right here, ladies and gentlemen, is Dr. Martin Luther King Drive, and it's one of only two in the United States that he actually marched down. The other one is in Atlanta, Georgia. And now we're coming up here, ladies and gentlemen. Can you all say the word Yalaha? It's a Seminole word, ladies and gentlemen. It means orange. And back in the day, this was all Yalaha plantations as far as the eye could see. I mean, it had to be a beautiful, beautiful sight. And it was a blood red Yalaha that grew on the trees back then. But a freeze back in the mid-1800s took out the Yalaha plantation, leaving only the plantation house over here on the left-hand side. And it's said, ladies and gentlemen, that when they're done refurbishing this house, that they're going to turn it into a museum dedicated to the Yalaha plantations. That's what I've been told. Now we're coming up on Wheaton Street, and Dr. Wheaton, he was a personal physician to Osceola, who was a Seminole warrior chief. And it said that he lived on Wheaton Street. Now, whether he lived down here to the left-hand side of Wheaton Street, or whether he lived over here to the right-hand side is still up for grabs. We don't know, ladies and gentlemen. Now, there was a rumor for a while that he lived in the Blue House here on the corner, but that's been debunked. He didn't actually live there, ladies and gentlemen. Now, they call him Weird Wheaton in these parts, all right? See, he had a strange set of values when, after you passed away, certain things that he used to like to do to your body. I mean, if you were his patient. And, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to go into it any more than that because it's really a Ghost and Gravestones tour. And I've only heard the story once, so I'm not going to dice it up for you. But ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know about the paranormal activity here in town or about Weird Wheaton, that is a great tour to take. Now, coming up here on the ice plant in the old distillery, I just firsthand found out why this distillery is one of our most popular stops last weekend, ladies and gentlemen. I stopped into the distillery and took the tour. And it's a free tour with free tastings. I'm so mad that it took me so long to get in there, but I'll tell you, you get to try everything in there for free that they serve. The vodka, the rum, the gin, the bourbon, and the whiskey, ladies and gentlemen. And we're doing the driving, so what's not to like? Now, on that day I wasn't driving, but we had somebody driving, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the ice plant, that's where you used to have to go to get ice. You didn't go to your freezer and crack a little blue tray or hit a button and have it spit out of the door. You had to work for it. You came down here, you picked the ice up, and then you would try and get it home before it melted. Now, at least that was up until 1946, ladies and gentlemen. In 46, they got high tech around here. Oh yeah. Look in the back of the parking lot on the right-hand side. That's high tech. That's a 1946 Chevrolet box truck, ladies and gentlemen. They were able to they were able to deliver the ice after 46, but before that, you were on the hook to try and figure out how to get it home yourself. August, that would have been the month I think would have been the toughest. Now, if you look over here to your right-hand side, you will see this is where the restaurant is, ladies and gentlemen. How was the food? Good stuff? I didn't hear what he said, ladies and gentlemen. But everything in there is farm fresh. All right, it's grown on the farms around here, brought down here, never frozen, and served up fresh to you. The only way to get fresher food in St. Augustine is to grow it in your own garden. But having said that, ladies and gentlemen, does anybody remember a little aluminum ice tray that had a handle? And you'd put the handle in, fill it up, and then when it would freeze, you'd pull that handle up and it would crack the ice? I'm seeing a couple of people bobbing their head up and down. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you what. If anybody's got one of those and they want to sell it, I would love to purchase it from you. You see, I want to show it to my nephew and see if he thinks it's a phone. Now, if you're going to be disembarking at stop number 11, please wait for me to come to a complete stop and ring the bell. Then use the handhelds and uprights backing down like you would back down a ladder. Either side is okay at this stop, ladies and gentlemen. Either side is okay.
I'm enjoying this.
Oh, yeah.
All right, if you're just joining us, my name is Joe Rock, and I'll be your tour guide. Please keep your arms and legs inside. No smoking, vaping, or consumption of alcohol. Please keep your conversations to a minimum. Everybody good? No more on, no more off. This trolley's now in motion. As we exit stop number 15, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry, stop number 11.
Brady wishes it was 15.
I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Sola Carcava Cigar Factory. Now, the Sola Carcava is as we go around this corner to the left, you're going to see it about a half a block down on the left-hand side of the street, and it's a mustard-colored building with a red roof. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Sola Carcava was also used to be responsible for 5 million cigars a year, and they would hire ladies to roll the cigars. It was felt the ladies had a smaller finger. They could roll a much tighter and more quality product. But while that is the case, ladies and gentlemen, they did have a job for the guys as well. And I'm going to get into what that job was just here in a minute. But before I do, I want to take advantage of our angle and point out the 27 stars on the side of the Sola Carcava. See, these 27 stars, they represent Florida becoming the 27th state in the Union. Now, guys, are you ready? Your job was not to smoke the cigars. No. Your job was to make sure the ladies were comfortable and the ladies were happy. And that meant what it meant. Whatever they wanted you to do, guys. They wanted you to sing to them or dance for them, talk to them, or read to them. Go get them something to eat or drink. Get some tobacco from downstairs. Give them a massage. Stand on your head. Guys, you did it. You didn't ask questions. Why? These ladies were responsible for 5 million cigars a year, and that doesn't happen by hanging out at the water cooler. But they did find one of the combinations where it could happen was when they were when they were happy and they were comfortable, because then they stayed at their stations longer and they rolled more cigars. Now, they used to roll the cigars on the top 3 floors, using the bottom 2 as for the extra tobacco. And they did sign a contract once to roll 8 million cigars. And ladies and gentlemen, they got close, but no cigar. They wound up having to close their doors because of it. Now, if you look over here to your right-hand side, you're going to see the yellow brick building with the chocolate trim. Now, that is Whetstone's Chocolate, which is stop number 13 on the tour. We're not going to be stopping at Whetstone's today. We are stopping at the San Sebastian Winery, which is stop number 12 on the tour, and it's about a stone's throw away, literally a half a block on the same side of the street. But they do tours at the Whetstones, and it's a free tour. I'm sorry, it's not a free tour. It is a nominal fee for the tour, ladies and gentlemen, but you get to try everything that they offer. The chocolate, the truffles, the gelato, the coffee, the fudge, those are the ones I remember. Trust me when I tell you, you're going to be wired on sugar and caffeine when you come out of there. But use the energy. Bring it back down here to the San Sebastian. Every 15 minutes, another trolley comes by to pick you up. Or, ladies and gentlemen, you can take the tour of the San Sebastian as well. Now, they've got 12 different wines. 8 of them are made with the muscadine grape, which is a sweeter grape that's grown out in Claremont, Florida, which is out near between Orlando and Tampa area. Now, if you get the munchies while you're taking this tour, well, they've got a restaurant on the roof called The Cellar, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you're going to be disembarking at stop number 12, please wait for me to come to a complete stop and ring the bell. Then use the handhelds and uprights backing down like you would back down a ladder. Only back down, ladies and gentlemen. Well, to either side is okay at the stop. To either side, ladies and gentlemen. And I did mention it. I did mean too that this is a free tour with free tastings here at the winery. All right, if you're just joining us, welcome aboard. Good afternoon. My name is Joe Rock, and I'll be your tour guide. Please keep your arms and legs inside. No smoking, vaping, or consumption of alcohol. Please keep your conversation to a minimum. Trolley's now in motion, ladies and gentlemen. No more on, no more off.
Okay.
All right, we're going to make a U-turn here, so what's directly behind us will soon be directly in front of you, ladies and gentlemen. And what that's going to be is a building that used to be Henry Flagler's Hospital. Now, if you worked for Henry back in the day, you got free medical. You got medical for the rest of your family, you could purchase it. It was 50 cents a month. And that wasn't per person, that was total, ladies and gentlemen, 50 cents. Now, that being said, you can see it's a police station today. But I like this part of the story. You see, we just dropped some people about 3 blocks away around the corner. They're doing free tastings and free tours at a distillery. Then we came around the corner. We dropped some more people, ladies and gentlemen, more free tastings and free tours, this time at a winery. And I already told you, that's okay, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing wrong with that. We're doing the driving. We're doing the driving. But ladies and gentlemen, I want you to pay attention to the 3 buildings right there across diagonally across from the police station. The ones with the blue diamonds on them. You see, those buildings are college dorms, ladies and gentlemen. So you got to hand it to St. Augustine. They knew where to put a police station, didn't they? Before it was the college dorms, though, it was the home to the railroad. And Henry Flagler was the father of the snowbirds. We established that. But ladies and gentlemen, to get the snowbirds down here, he needed a vehicle. And he decided the railroad was going to be that vehicle. He bought the railroad. And that's when he found out standard gauge track up north, narrow gauge track down here. You couldn't run the opposite train on the opposite track. It wouldn't work. So people were going to have to change trains. Not on Henry's watch. Henry changed the track. He made a standard gauge track from New York all the way down to Florida, eventually stretching into Key West. But why the expense? Why not let them change tracks or change trains? Back in the day, they didn't have prepay, ladies and gentlemen, so these people were walking around with a pocket full of money, $9 grand minimum to stay in his hotel, plus the expense money while they're here for an entire season. They change trains. They're not locked into anything. They might change their minds, ladies and gentlemen. Move on. Go do something else. There's nothing to stop them. Also, what about the people who get lost in transit? Well, he doesn't get paid by them either because they get lost and they never find their way down here. Now, having said that, ladies and gentlemen, it was a genius move to change the track. It was an expensive move, but genius. The problem was people were being knocked around on the train all the way down here from New York when they were tired of it. Tired of being knocked around, ladies and gentlemen, not done with it. As soon as they got off the train, they had to get on this road we're riding on now. This is King Street. King Street back then was a lumpy, bumpy, dirty mess. It was a dirt road. So they're still being bumped around on King Street here. And they didn't like it. So Henry addressed the issue and paved King Street. First paved road in St. Augustine. But ladies and gentlemen, back then when you paved the road, you paved it in brick, not asphalt like you see today. Years later, they did lay the asphalt. When they did, they never took up the brick. So you're riding on the same bricks that they did back in the day. Now, how cool is that? Now, the Marklets, they had a orange grove plantation on this side of town, and it had to be a beautiful ride to Henry's Hotels at the other end of the street because you rode right down through here, and it was in the middle of the orange groves. But that freeze back in the mid-1800s, it took out the Yalaha plantations, and Lincolnville wasn't prejudiced to one side of town or the other. Nope, took the Marklets out too, leaving them with a decision to make. Do we sell? Do we rebuild? They decided they would sell, ladies and gentlemen. They sold to Andrew Anderson II, who was Henry Flagler's personal physician. He also made several donations to the town over the years, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll point those out as we get close enough to see them. But if you look to your left, that house, the beautiful building behind the white picket fence here, is the Markland House. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about Franklin Smith, because you see, Franklin, he's the one who built the Villa Zareta and taught Henry's men how to pour concrete. Well, he decided he wanted to get into the hotel business one night, and he told Henry as much. Henry told him it's not a good idea. Make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, that was a warning from Henry, but Franklin, I don't think, got the warning or didn't heed it, one of the two, and he built the Casa Monica Hotel directly ahead. That beautiful tower with the red roof, the white tower, and you got the flag flying behind it. The building goes down the block to the right-hand side. There's a bookend tower on the other end. That's Franklin's hotel. But that's when he realized, oh, I'm in direct competition with the man, Henry Flagler himself. I better bring my A game. And he did, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing but the best furniture for Franklin's hotel. But most of that was being made in New York at the time. So he's sweating bullets sitting in his hotel because he's got just enough furniture for 2 rooms, and he's sleeping in one of them. And he's well aware nobody is going to stay in a hotel, no matter how beautiful it is, if there's nothing to sit on, nothing to sleep on. And he proved it, ladies and gentlemen, because you see, he ran out of excuses, reasons why he couldn't open his he kept postponing the open date as long as he could, but no longer could he do so. So he opened the doors, ladies and gentlemen, and now he's hemorrhaging money hand over fist. Why? Because there's no furniture, but he's paying a staff, but nobody's staying there. Now this is where the story gets interesting, ladies and gentlemen, because you see, there's no proof to the end result. I'm gonna give you the facts and let you draw your own conclusion. Fact number 1, who told Henry or Franklin not to get into the hotel business? It was Flagler, right? Fact number 2, where was all that furniture being made? New York and places like that, right? Fact number 3, ladies and gentlemen, who owned the railroad? Oh, Flagler did, didn't he? Now, Henry, he didn't let Franklin go out completely. No, good buddies. He bought them out for pennies on the dollar. Before the ink could dry on the contract, guess what showed up on the railroad? All that furniture. Now, there's no proof that Henry knew anything about any hijinks on the railroad. There's no proof he did, ladies and gentlemen. But my question is, to you, what do you think? I mean, for me, it's a prime example of that old adage, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer, and that favor that Franklin did by teaching Henry's men how to pour concrete only went so far with Henry, didn't it? Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you look to your left, you're going to see the governor's house. That's the white building with the wooden railings, wooden balconies, and the red roof, ladies and gentlemen. Back in the original town plan, you had to have a governor's house. You also had to have a place of worship before you can have an open-air marketplace, which is right here in the middle. But if you look across the open-air marketplace, you'll see the Cathedral of Basilica. That's stop number 14 on the tour, and it is the place of worship. Now, in this open-air marketplace, one of the first things you ever saw in the United States was a weight balancing system of payment. It was the first time you ever saw that, was right here in this marketplace. Now, what is that? Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever gone to the grocery store and you've bought some produce or maybe some meat, anything that's weighed out is a weight balancing system of payment. Before that, it was haphazard. Got a handful of this. I'm gonna charge you so much more. No, my hands are up with it. Now, because my hands are bigger, and now charge me that much more. See, it gave standardization to that kind of thing. Now, if you look over here to your left, you're going to see the That's that statue sitting on top of the pedestal. His name is Juan Ponce de Leon, and all 4'11" of them. Now you see, Juan, that's all the taller he was, 4'11", but he did know how to hedge his bets. He was well aware that back then you were measured from the heel of your boot to the feather in your cap. So take a look at the feather in Juan's cap. Pretty tall, isn't it? I'd be willing to bet money he'd pick that out himself, ladies and gentlemen, but fully dressed Juan was 5'10". Size matters, ladies and gentlemen, all the way back to the early 1500s. That's what that proves. Now, we're coming up here on stop number 15, which is the Cathedral Basilica. And this is where the beach bus starts and stops from every hour and a half hour, taking you across the Bridge of Lions to the Alligator Farm, ladies and gentlemen. Also, there's a ticket booth here at stop number 14 where you can get tickets to any and all of our attractions. Now, if you're going to be disembarking at 14, please wait for me to come to a complete stop and ring the bell. Then use the handhelds and uprights backing down like you would back down a ladder. Only back down, ladies and gentlemen, to the right-hand side of this stop, only to the right-hand side. If you are going to be disembarking at this stop, please go ahead and slide over to the right now, because this stop gets confusing. People try to board before you get a chance to disembark. It just becomes a real confusing stop. stop number 1, but I am going in the direction of 15. Yeah. Yep. That's the last stop on it. It's scheduled there at 4:40. Uh-huh. All right, if you're just joining us, my name is Joe Rock, and I'll be your tour guide. Please keep your arms and legs inside. No smoking, vaping, or consumption of alcohol. Please keep your conversations to a minimum. When you hear the bell, ladies and gentlemen, this trolley will be in motion, which means no more on, no more off till you hear the bell at the next stop. All right, is everybody on? Y'all joining us? No? No more on, no more off, ladies and gentlemen. This trolley is now in motion.
Let them know there.
All right, as we exit stop number 14, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you.
We exit stop number 14, ladies and gentlemen. Down here at the end of the block on the right-hand side, you're going to see a white building with a red roof. That's the original placement of the old jail back in 1891. But across the street, that's the Walhouse de Leon Hotel, ladies and gentlemen. Henry Flagler's flagship hotel. And I got to tell you, if you think Henry was going to leave an old jail across the street from his flagship hotel, people, inmates, heckling his guests who paying $9 grand to stay there for the season, or just happen to watch the inner workings of the jail every day. No, he moved it from right over here on our right-hand side, ladies and gentlemen, to stop number 1 on the tour, which is 167 San Marco Avenue, where it still is today. It was just another pawn on the man's chessboard, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the vicious-looking chains that are sitting right out here in front of the college, those are called boom chains, ladies and gentlemen. And those are actually replicas. But what they used to do with these chains, they would lay them in the bay up here. And then when an opposing ship would come by, an enemy ship, just a ship they didn't like for whatever reason, they would pull that chain tight, and it would rip the hull right out of the bottom of the ship. Now, it's a very effective way to protect St. Augustine back in the day, and I'll guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen, even those replica chains would do a number on the boats we've got up here today. Now, the steeple that you see on the other side of this intersection is the Trinity Parish, which is the Episcopal Church here in town, ladies and gentlemen. And I want you to pay close attention to the windows in the Trinity Parish. That's some more of that Louis Comfort Tiffany stained glass we've come to know and love down here in St. Augustine. But this time, ladies and gentlemen, you count 1, 2, 3 in from the end. That one's actually signed by Louis Comfort Tiffany himself. It's hard to see his signature from out here, but ladies and gentlemen, if you take the tour, very prominent on the inside. Now this closed store right here at the end of this bank of stores, ladies and gentlemen, look at the push rails. It says Woolworth. It's obviously a closed Woolworths. You know what it was before that, ladies and gentlemen? It was an open Woolworths, all right? But it's also the first place they ever did a sit-in to protest the civil rights movement when it was open. Now, Alvalise Street, the archway right here, you look down Alvalise Street to the left, you'll see a building with flags on it, ladies and gentlemen, about a half a block up on the left-hand side. That is the Spanish-American Military Hospital Museum. Alvalise Street also was the oldest street in St. Augustine. It was named after Pedro Menendez's hometown. Now, the yellow building up here at the end of the block, which looks like it belongs in the French Quarter in New Orleans, that's the original placement of Potter's Wax Museum before they moved it to stop number 3 on the tour on Orange Street. When it was here, there was a movie back in the 40s called House of Wax with Vincent Price. They wanted to film the whole movie in here. They weren't able to do so, but they did film portions of it there, and then they built a set, ladies and gentlemen, to model this place for the portions that they could not film there. When they took the museum out of here, they put a store in. They called it the Surprise Store, ladies and gentlemen. They did that for a couple of reasons. Now, one of them has to do with the marina that you see across the street. That's the St. Augustine Municipal Marina, and it's the oldest functioning marina in the United States today. The products that you would see in the Surprise Store, most of them came off the boat. But you didn't have a computer back then, so you didn't know what their manifest was till they got here, ladies and gentlemen. That's why they call it the Surprise Store. Now, the other reason they did was because, ladies, back in the day, you weren't allowed to carry cash. Now, that doesn't mean you weren't allowed to shop, but it does mean you weren't allowed to carry cash. So you would go into the Surprise Store, find something you like. If you liked it a whole lot, then you'd pick it up, you'd take it to the clerk. The clerk would then write up a marker for it. You'd be on your merry way with your brand new product. Now, having said that, sometime before the end of the vacation, your husbands would have to go in there and they would pay for that marker, ladies and gentlemen. That's when the surprises would start happening. But turnabout's fair play, ladies and gentlemen. I got to tell you, I do that to my wife today. She looks at the credit card receipts, then she looks at me. She's got this nifty little move she does with her head, ladies and gentlemen. It reminds me of Linda Blair. Now, over here on the left, you're going to see, the St. Augustine light, and that's the second one. The first one fell into the sea back in 1874. They rebuilt it, ladies and gentlemen, moved it back and rebuilt it. If you like maritime history, if you like lighthouse history, that's the next tour you should be taking, because it's got a lot of both on there, ladies and gentlemen. It's a wonderful tour. I'm a big fan of maritime and lighthouses, so for me, I spent all day there. It was awesome. Now, having said that, though, take your camera with you too, because you are going to get your pictures in on that day. It's just beautiful up there. I've got pictures. I'm looking for somebody who knows how to blow up digital pictures so I can put them on my wall. But also, don't forget your Fitbit. You're going to get your steps in on that day, ladies and gentlemen. There's 219 steps up, 219 steps back down, no ladder. Now, as we come around this next corner, you're going to see the St. Francis Barracks on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, we're coming up on stop number 15, which is the oldest house museum. Now, this is the oldest house still standing, ladies and gentlemen. All right? Understand something. This town was built in the early 1500s. But everybody who ever attacked it had the same idea. Let's burn it down. And they did, ladies and gentlemen. So this house, early 1700s, it's the oldest house still standing. That's why there's a generation gap. Now, if you're going to be disembarking at stop number 15, please wait for me to come to a complete stop, wait to go. Then use a handle to upright, back down, like it back down, only back down, ladies and gentlemen, to the right-hand side of the stop. Only to the right-hand side. I'll pull off a little magic trick here for you, but most magicians, they have a good assistant. I've got a whole trolley full, ladies and gentlemen. So, can I get you all to say abracadabra? Woo! Trick's gonna work, ladies and gentlemen. You guys got the energy for this. All right, now as you know, most magicians' assistants, they get tasked with that not so magical part of the trick. So now I need everybody to take a deep breath and hold it. And if you've got any chapstick, if you want to put it on the sides of the trolley, now would be the time, ladies and gentlemen. All right, down here on the right-hand side, there is a pink building with a flat roof. That building is a Spanish dwelling that has been untouched. Still has the courtyard entrance and the fire pit. You can take that tour and find out what it was like to live in one of those dwellings back in the day. All right, everybody say presto! All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was my trick. We slid down that alley. We didn't touch anything. Thank you for the chapstick. Now, dead ahead is the Chechki house, and that's an example of the catalog house. Now, back in the day, we had the wish book. For me, it was the best catalog. For a lot of people, it was a Sears catalog. But in either case, you could open up the pages of one of those catalogs. You'd see a house just like that on the pages. For about $3,000, you could purchase that house, ladies and gentlemen, and they would deliver it to you. Now, if you had another $3,000, they'd come out and build it for you. At $6,000 a pop, ladies and gentlemen, it really only leaves one thing, right? How many do you want? You know they're worth a little more than that today, right? Give me a dozen of them, I'll figure out what we'll build them later. Now, if you look over here to your left, you're going to see through the wrought iron fence just past the second window on the bottom floor, you're going to see a hole in the white wall. Look at the very center of that hole and you're going to see a cannonball. That's what it looks like when a cannonball impacts coquina, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm going to be telling you about coquina a little bit at stop number 17. I'm going to be referencing this mental picture. So go ahead and keep that mental picture in your mind. I'll go by slow so the other two trolleys can sort of see that as well. But I've got 5 flags flying up here on the side of the building, and these 5 flags represent the 5 periods that St. Augustine has been through. Now, from right to left, ladies and gentlemen, you have your first Spanish period, then you have your British period, then you have your second Spanish period. The 4th flag represents the small amount of time that we were under Confederate rule, and then of course Old Glory on the end. And these flags, ladies and gentlemen, the cannons and the cannonballs that you see around town on display, these are real, ladies and gentlemen. They're not fakes, they're not replicas. Each and every one of them was commissioned at some point in history to protect St. Augustine against any and all attacks. For me, I just think it's cool that they've got as many of them as they do and that they're in the shape that they're in. Because these things really took a beating back in the day. You'll see two of them over here on the right-hand side, ladies and gentlemen. There's several of them in the open-air market area. There's a couple of them at the entrance to the Fountain of Youth. Every time I turn around, it seems like I find one I didn't even notice before, ladies and gentlemen. They're all over town. Keep your eyes open. Now, if you look over here to your right, you're going to see what looks like a raised sidewalk, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a sidewalk at all. It's actually the original seawall. And we're overachievers down here in St. Augustine. One seawall that doesn't work, that wasn't enough for us. No, we had to have two. So we built another one, and it doesn't work any better than the first one does, ladies and gentlemen. This road floods, and it floods to knee deep sometimes. Why they didn't build that second seawall taller, I've got to guess. It has to do with that view, but I don't know for sure. Now, the building that you see on the pylons up here, I'm told that's going to be a wharf restaurant. That's exciting to me. See, I'm from Virginia, not too far from the D.C. border, not too far from the Maryland border. And up there, we steam our craft and our shrimp, ladies and gentlemen. In D.C., we've got a restaurant called The Wharf. I don't know if it's the same people or not, but if it is, that's what I'm excited about. Because we're obviously going to be getting some steam crabs and shrimp down here. Now, for those of you from the South, ladies and gentlemen, crab boil's fine. I mean, the taste is fine. It's a texture thing for me. If you've never had it steamed, don't knock it till you've tried it. Now, if you look out here to your right, you're going to see a black Spanish galleon with yellow and red stripes on it. It's actually a replica of a Spanish galleon, but they call it the Black Raven, ladies and gentlemen. And during the day, they do tours on that boat. It's a G-rated tour. Take the kids, learn what it was like to be a pirate back in the day or a deckhand. But ladies and gentlemen, at night, you might want to leave the kids at home because the tour gets a little more R-rated. See, they call it the Rum Runner. Essentially, it's a booze cruise, ladies and gentlemen, but it is a lot of fun. And now we're coming up on stop number 16, which is the Ripley's, believe it or not, putt-putt golf course, not the museum, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this golf course is very old. It was the first one desegregated during the Civil Rights Movement. And if you're going to be disembarking at stop number 16, please wait for me to come to a complete stop, ring the bell. Then use the handhelds and uprights, backing down like you would back down a ladder. Right-hand side only at this stop, ladies and gentlemen. Right-hand side only. Consumption of alcohol.
And I beat him
Your
yesterday.
conversation to a minimum.
Beat you too.
All right, as we exit stop number 16, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to point out a couple of monuments here. If you look over here to your right-hand side, you're going to see that statue I pointed out earlier of Juan Ponce de Leon. And if you'll notice, he's pointing at a flagpole, and at the base of that flagpole, there's a World War I memorial. Now, on the right, just past this construction, you're going to see two lions at the end of the Bridge of Lions. Their names are Firm and Faithful. They were cut from the same marble quarry as Michelangelo's David statue, ladies and gentlemen. And all of these monuments that I've just mentioned, they were all donated by one man, ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Anderson II. Now, Andrew, if the name sounds familiar, it's because I mentioned him earlier. He's the one who bought the Markland House and also was Henry Flagler's personal physician. Now, Andrew got to see most of these monuments go in, but by the time Firm and Faithful were cut and put in place, he ordered them, but he had passed away before they got to get put in, so he never got to see those. And there's two statues at the other end of that bridge that were donated, two more lions. They were donated at a later time. They're cut from granite from Mexico. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you look to your left, you're going to see our one and only skyscraper. That's what they call a 5-story building down here in St. Augustine. It's called a skyscraper. Now, it is the tallest building in town, and it's also the Treasury building. And the reason it's the tallest building in town is because after they built it, they didn't like it, so they quickly put an ordinance on the books that says nothing can be over 3 stories tall. And to this day, nothing is because of this ordinance. Now, the Hilton Hotel, they wanted to build a traditional hotel, and they had to think outside the box. They were told no because of the ordinance. So thinking outside the box for the Hilton does get interesting. If you look over here to your left, ladies and gentlemen, you'll see the Hilton marquee. That group of houses around it, well, that's what it looks like to me, 3-story houses that are all connected together. That's the hotel. Now, they built that from scratch. There was nothing there when they started on that piece of property, ladies and gentlemen. So you got to give it to the Hilton. They did a great job making it look period. Now it is the only Hilton in their chain built that way, and it's the smallest one in their chain. There is one smaller, well, the smallest Hilton in their chain in the U.S. There is one smaller in their chain. It's in Europe. It doesn't look anything like that. If you look across the bay, you'll see Anastasia Island. That's where coquina is harvested from. Now, coquina is a shell. It's only about so big. They mix it with limestone. It makes a very durable, buildable substance. So much so that that's what they actually built the Castillo de San Marcos out of. Stop number 17 on the tour. Now, the first 9 times they built the Castillo, they built it out of wood. And it kept getting burned to the ground, and that burned the queen up. So she said, come up with a different substance, guys. And they came up with the coquina, ladies and gentlemen. But for all of its good traits, coquina's not perfect. It's got a few bad traits, and one of them is that it's very porous while it's curing, and it takes about 3 years for it to fully cure. So they had to put plaster on the outside of the building, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you're seeing. That's not white paint, that's plaster to help waterproof the port. If you're going to be disembarking at stop number 15, please wait for me to come to a complete stop and ring the bell. Then use the handheld and upright back and down and get back down the ladder. Either side is okay at the stop, ladies and gentlemen. Either side. Alright, if you're just joining us, my name is Joe Rock and I'll be your tour guide. Please keep your arms and legs inside. No smoking, vaping, or consumption of alcohol. Please keep your conversations to a minimum. When you hear the bell, this trolley will be in motion, which means no more on, no more off until you hear the bell at the next stop. More people still boarding, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, is everybody situated? No more on, no more off. This trolley's now in motion. Alright, as we exit stop number 17, ladies and gentlemen, once they put the plaster on the side of the building, they realized they had a big, beautiful white building, so they decided they would paint the turrets red. There's one on each corner of the building, ladies and gentlemen. Now, once they did that, you didn't have to be a genius if you were an opposing ship captain to know that you were in enemy territory. Whether you saw that Spanish flag flying overhead or not, you saw the building, and the building was representative of one big, massive Spanish flag. But having said that, it didn't faze Sir Francis Drake in the slightest. He attacked that building, and he did it for 50 days straight, continuous and total bombardment. When the smoke cleared at the end, the fort was still standing there. It's never been taken in battle, and that upset Sir Francis. So he went ahead and went into town as his encore move and burned the town down, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you remember the cannonball back at the oldest house, that's what it looks like when a cannonball impacts coquina. It goes in and it sits there. For those of you who didn't see it, or for those of you who just joined us, it looks like a baseball does going into a catcher's net, ladies and gentlemen. It just kind of sits there. The people inside the fort, they would scale down the walls at night, and they would pluck the cannonballs out of the walls. Then they would clean them up, and the next day they would put them in their cannons and return them to sender. It's a very, ladies and gentlemen, it was like your first recycling plant. No deposit, no return. When you think about it, I'd had to put a message on it myself, though, something like, did you lose something? But, that's me, that's my sarcasm. But ladies and gentlemen, look at the morale boost. No wonder this fort's never been taken in battle. You've just been attacked for 50 days straight, continuous and total bombardment. You haven't slept because he doesn't stop working just because it's nighttime. You're at wit's end, your nerves are frazzled, you figure you're going to die at some point, but you don't. Now you return fire with their cannonballs. Watch their ship sink under the weight of their own cannonballs, or at least take damage. Come on now, that's a morale boost to have. No wonder that fort's never been taken in battle. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Marjorie, we're going to talk about Mr. Ford because he built a beautiful castle. He had 14 kids, ladies and gentlemen. 12 of them lived in the house with him, all of his daughters, one son. And so he built this castle to house all of them. What he was thinking, though, I have no idea when he decided that one bathroom was going to be sufficient for all those people. People from big families always smile and laugh at this one, ladies and gentlemen. I've got 6 sisters and 1 brother. We had 2 bathrooms. We needed 3. We'd have had 3, we'd have needed 4. There were never enough bathrooms in the house, ladies and gentlemen. But Marjorie Keenan Rollins wasn't fazed by this at all. No, she bought the Warden House and decided to turn it into a hotel. Now, if the name Marjorie Keenan Rollins sounds familiar, she's the one who wrote The Yearling. But first order of business when you turn something into a hotel that's only got 1 bathroom has to be bathrooms, don't you think? So she did the bathrooms and anything else that needed to be done to turn it into a hotel, and opened her doors, ladies and gentlemen. Now, having said that, what she did, one of her most prominent repeat customers was a gentleman by the name of Robert Ripley. And Robert fell in love with the Ward house and tried to buy it from Marjorie. But Marjorie wasn't selling. She was living in a penthouse on the top floor with her husband. She wasn't selling. But those didn't stop Marjorie from, it didn't stop Robert from asking every time he came to town, and he came quite often. No, it wasn't until after Marjorie passed away and Robert passed away that the two estates got together and hashed out a deal. This became your first Ripley's, believe it or not. It's also the home to all 137 episodes of the Ripley's Believe It or Not television series. Well, ladies and gentlemen, back here in the back of the parking lot, you're going to see a big, beautiful chrome Bronco on your right-hand side. Now that Bronco, ladies and gentlemen, is made out of car bumpers. Back when they were still metal, I mean, let's face it, if you made that thing today, it would be plastic, and there'd probably be a plug in it somewhere. But back in 1987, it was made for the Denver Broncos. You see, they were heavily favored to win the Super Bowl that year against Lawrence Taylor and the New York Giants. But it didn't happen that way. You see, the Broncos lost that Super Bowl, and then this Bronco got lost. He was supposed to go to Denver, Colorado to be part of the spoils for winning the Super Bowl, and instead he found his way down here to St. Augustine, Florida, in the back of Ripley's Believe It or Not parking lot, where he's been since 1987. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you a personal story about this Bronco. The other day I mentioned that I had a guy sitting right here behind me, and I said, car bumpers. And he said, oh, it's a horse. Must have been Mustangs. I said, no, it was Broncos. Now, over here on the right-hand side, ladies and gentlemen, to where everybody's standing. If you look through that archway, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see one of Ripley's most famous illusions, the floating spigot. And if you're going to be disembarking at stop number 18, please wait for me to come to a complete stop and ring the bell. Then use the handhelds and uprights, back down like you would back down a ladder. Only back down, ladies and gentlemen, to the right-hand side of the stop. Only to the right-hand side. But it's the best way I've found to describe David. If you look over here to your right-hand side, you're going to see him poking his head up from behind the bushes over here. So if you happen to know the song, feel free to sing along. Oh yes, they call him the Streak. Look at that, likes to show off his physique. Look at that, if there's an audience to be found, he'll be streaking around in public critique. That's David, ladies and gentlemen. Michelangelo's David, or at least a replica of it. Now it is cut from the same marble quarry as the original, and as the Bridge of Lions are cut from. But David wasn't always back there behind the bushes, ladies and gentlemen. No, when he first arrived here at Ripley's, Ripley had it prominently displayed out here on the curb for everyone to see, ladies and gentlemen. But that caused traffic accidents. So St. Augustine asked Ripley to move David, and they did. They moved him back there. But I want you to take a look over here to your right-hand side, ladies and gentlemen, because you're going to see, although they moved David, they didn't get all of David. Right here on your right-hand side, you're going to see they left his nuts and bolts up here on the corner for everyone to see. Now, we're coming up on stop number 19, which is the Welcome Center. And the Welcome Center, ladies and gentlemen, this is where the Ghost and Gravestone store picks you up and drops you off every night. A lot of people get that ticket, and then they realize, oh, they think they're going to stop number 1 to pick it up. No, it's right here at stop number 19 that they pick you up, ladies and gentlemen. So I try to clarify that as often as I can during the day. Now, if you need tickets to that, you can get them inside at our ticket booth, along with tickets to any and all of the rest of our attractions. If you're going to be disembarking at stop number 19, please wait for me to come to a complete stop and ring the bell. Then use the handhelds and uprights back and down when you go back down the ladder. Right-hand side only at this stop, ladies and gentlemen. Right-hand side only.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, they'd like for me to make a quick announcement at this stop. If you're each and every one of the stops going away from here are all going to be working their way away from town, okay? And we're going back to stop number 1 on the tour. Now, if you're parked up here, this is what they like me to make this announcement for, because a lot of people don't realize they're right across the street from the historic downtown parking garage, and Ripley's is right on, and the Wax Museum is right on the other side of that. Now, we make this announcement because if you're parked there, to save you some time, we tell you, in case you want to go ahead and disembark here and make your way to your car, you're more than welcome to ride all the way back to stop number 1, and they'll get you on a shuttle and get you where you need to go. The reason they like us to make the stop is to save you time, though, because you see, the shuttles at this time of day with the traffic the way it is, sometimes can run as much as a 45 minutes to an hour wait before you'll get one, going where you're headed. So that's why they like us to make that announcement. All right, now, no more on, no more off. This trolley's now in motion. My name's Joe Rock. I'll be your tour guide. Please keep your arms and legs inside. No smoking, vaping, or consumption of alcohol. Please keep your conversations to a minimum. When you hear the bell, this trolley will be in motion, ladies and gentlemen.
Sweaty.
What?
Hot and sweaty.
Oh, I thought you said something else. Boogity, boogity. Ding, ding.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, tell you a little bit about the Abbott track. We're going for it because that's what we're heading into. That's what we're heading into, ladies and gentlemen. See, Lucy Abbott, she was a young 20-something, and she inherited some land down here. She lived in the Carolinas, so she jumped a train and came down to find out exactly what she had inherited. It was a large parcel of land, so she decided to go home, grab all of her stuff, move down here permanently, and she became one of our biggest land developers down here. Now, having said that, ladies and gentlemen, she didn't do any of this without having to jump through some hoops, and I'm going to be telling you what those hoops were here in a second. But first, I want to take advantage of where we are and point out some of the houses she built. So right over here on the right, the Christmas shop, that's one of the houses she built. She also built this white building next door, ladies and gentlemen, which used to be the Uptown Swinery. And she built a coffee house. So that's 3 for 3. But that's 3 of 129 houses total that she built. And of the 129, 124 of them are still standing today, ladies and gentlemen. I think they should have left the young lady alone. She obviously knew what she was doing. And some of the builders we have today could examine the houses that she's built and maybe learn a thing or two about what it takes to withstand a hurricane. But they didn't leave her alone, ladies and gentlemen. As a matter of fact, they told, because she was a female, she wasn't allowed to own the land that she had inherited. So she had to put the land in her brother's name and then build the houses. Now we're coming up on the Old Mission, which is stop number 20 on the tour, ladies and gentlemen. And the Old Mission, this is where Pedro Menendez first landed when he came to Florida. And he landed right out there at the village of Saloy, ladies and gentlemen. See where that big, beautiful cross is? That marks the village of Saloy, also where Father Lopez did the first Catholic Mass. Now the cross itself, 208 feet tall and 70 tons of stainless steel. The reason they didn't make it any taller, they didn't want to have to put a red light on it for the airport. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Lady of Leche is also buried here at the Old Mission. Now that means Mother of the Milk in Spanish. And it said that if you go across the bridge past Father Lopez's statue to the Lady of Leche's monument, if you're looking to have a healthy and fertile child pregnancy, if you say a prayer to the Lady of Leche, that she's got a very good track record with such things. But having said that, ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you that there's always a guy on here. It seems to always be a young guy. And you hear him right about now, and he's like, keep going. There's several other people that like to disembark. So if you're one of the ones that would like to disembark, please wait for me to go to a complete stop and ring the bell. Then use the handhelds and uprights, backing down like you would back down in ladder. Either side is okay at this stop, ladies and gentlemen. Either side.
Ding, ding.
All right, if you're just joining us, my name is Joe Rock. I'll be your tour guide. Please keep your arms and legs inside. No smoking, vaping, or consumption of alcohol. Please keep your conversation to a minimum. Trolley's now in motion, ladies and gentlemen. No more on, no more off. As we exit stop number 20, we're now headed for stop number 21, which is the old senator. Now the senator, he's the oldest living resident in St. Augustine. He's crooked and he's shady. He lives in a motel. That's why they call him the old senator. He's got the credentials for it, ladies and gentlemen. But having said that, the senator's not a person. He's a tree. It's a 600-year-old oak tree to be exact. Now most oak trees, they only lived about 300 years old. But this guy, well, they sent out a team to do a core sample on him because after laying their eyes on his trunk, they knew he was older than 300. 600 I don't think they were planning on, but ladies and gentlemen, that's how old he is. I think it has to do with the Fountain of Youth, I'll be honest with you, because he's just south of it. If it's leaking, well, he's got it made. Otherwise he might have just tapped his roots into it, I don't know. But ladies and gentlemen, the senator's also known as a love tree. he's got a palm tree growing out of his center, and it said the roots intertwine with his. That's what constitutes a love tree. It's also said that if you kiss your loved one underneath the tree, that you will be together for life. For life, ladies and gentlemen. So keep that in mind when when you're kissing your loved one. I'm sure that's not a problem, and I know you love your kids as well, but you do want your kids to move out at some point, right? Now, take a look at the size of this tree, ladies and gentlemen. Massive. Looks like a small tornado coming at us, doesn't it? They trim it. My mom's got one in her backyard. 3 of my sisters and I, we all tried to hold hands going around it. We could barely touch fingertips, and this one's got that dwarf. Now, if you're going to be disembarking at stop number 21, please wait for me to come to a complete stop and ring the bell. Then use the handles and uprights, backing down like you would back down a ladder. Only back down, ladies and gentlemen, to the right hand. Actually, either
You want
side
to
of
go
the stop's
fishing
okay.
or we
Either
together
side.
forever?
See the palm trees as we come by the center.
How do you want to do it?
Take it out.
But we're underneath it.
No, yeah.
Yeah. See that, Brady? We're gonna be together
All right,
forever.
if you're just joining us, my name's Joe Rock, and I'll be your tour guide. Please keep your arms and legs inside. No smoking, vaping, or consumption of alcohol. Please keep your conversation minimal. No more on, no more off. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as we exit stop number 21, we're coming up on Magnolia Street. So if you've got a camera, this is a good time to take it out, because Magnolia Street is one of the top 10 most beautiful streets in the United States today, according to National Geographic's magazine. It's also the
We
street
heard
that
that during
Forrest
that
Gump was
Christmas
running
one.
down in the movie when the leg braces broke off his leg. They did put up the green screens to hide the things they didn't want you to see, but this is the street. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go around this corner slow so that you can get some good pictures, but 2 things I do want you to keep in mind.
This ain't
All right,
Forrest Gump.
1, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you're going to be taking some pictures, keep a good grip on your camera. 2, don't hold it out past the trolley, because if it drops, I'm not allowed to stop.
Didn't he just say that?
Isn't this beautiful? And you want to keep your cameras out, because you may see some peacocks. There's well over 100 of them that live on the grounds at the Fountain of Youth. And ladies and gentlemen, peacocks love peanuts. So if you're going to be disembarking at this stop, you can get a handful of peanuts from the vending machines that are all around the grounds, and put them on the ground around you. They'll flock around you like pigeons. You can get some good pictures that way. Now, ladies and gentlemen, up here on the right-hand side, you're going to see one of the peacocks. It just went up on top of the fence, ladies and gentlemen, the concrete wall. Now, has anybody noticed that there's no magnolias on Magnolia Street? Well, that's because that freeze back in the mid-1800s that knocked out the Alaha plantation on the other side of town did a number on the magnolias over on this side of town as well. But it did leave us with all these beautiful baby senators and all this beautiful Spanish moss. Now that's a male, ladies and gentlemen. The cobalt blue ones are the males. The green ones, the white ones, those are the females. Now, Spanish moss has got an interesting story to tell, because first off, it's not Spanish, nor is it moss. It's actually an air plant from the pineapple family, which coincidentally is not pine, nor is it apple. Now, Spanish moss also is the cause of the very first automotive recall in history. You see, Henry Ford stuffed the seats of the Model Ts with it, ladies and gentlemen, and it was a real bite in everybody's seat, because there are chiggers and mites that live in Spanish moss, and Henry Ford didn't know anything about it when he did it. Okay, 2 males and a female, ladies and gentlemen. 2 more males just beyond that, all on the left-hand side here. Now, if you're going to be disembarking at stop number 22, please wait for me to come to a complete stop and ring the bell. Then use the handhelds and uprights, backing down like you would back down a ladder. Either side is okay at this stop, ladies and gentlemen. Either side is okay.
We can always go back in if you want to. We can always get one again.
All right, some of y'all been. All right, if you're just joining us, my name is Joe Rock. I'll be your tour guide. Please keep your arms and legs inside. No smoking, vaping, or consumption of alcohol. Please keep your conversations to a minimum. This trolley is now in motion, ladies and gentlemen. All right, now, as I started to say, some of y'all have been with me for as many as 22 stops. And that's okay, but that was 22 stops to escape, ladies and gentlemen, and you're still with me. Now, having said that, I'm going to now take you back to jail. Stop number 1 on the tour is the old jail, and that's where we're headed. So if you think you're innocent, ladies and gentlemen, Tell it to the judge. Tell it to the judge. Now, ladies and gentlemen, keep your tickets today because you can use them in any of our sister cities for discounts. We have Key West, Savannah, Georgia, Nashville, Tennessee, Washington, D.C., Boston, and San Diego, California, ladies and gentlemen. And these tickets are good for as much as a year for those discounts. Now, if you look to your right and your left, you're going to see two plants on tops of these two posts. And I know they look dead, but they're not. They're called resurrection ferns, ladies and gentlemen. As soon as it rains, they get as green as the grass across the street. Then they go dormant. They're never dead, but I know that's what they look like. They're not, though. Now, it's really kind of a cool thing to witness. Now, as we round this next corner, if you look over here to your right-hand side, you're going to see what's called a tabby wall. That's the concrete wall with the oyster shells in it, ladies and gentlemen. It's very sharp. They did this tactically. They're well aware that if you tried to scale this wall back in the day, that you would be cut deeply. And there's, ladies and gentlemen, if you try to scale this wall today, it's still very sharp, and you probably still get cut very deeply. The difference between getting cut today and getting cut back then are the antibiotics. See, back then, if you got cut that way, there's a good chance you could lose a limb or possibly your life. Today, you're probably going to survive, but you're still going to come away with a pretty nasty gash. All right, now bear with me as we go around this next corner, ladies and gentlemen, because the people who live on this street, they've asked us to remain quiet for a certain portion of the street. When I say us, I mean me with the microphone. You're more than welcome to talk amongst yourselves. All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, I'd like to thank you all for choosing HTA Tours today. It's been a blast driving you around. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, ladies and gentlemen. And, hey, you picked a beautiful day for it. It didn't rain on us. It's a little warm, but it didn't rain on us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things we appreciate as much as our tips is our comment cards, and I've got a few of them up here. I've already put my name on it. If you'd like one of those, please stop by and pick one up on your way out. And again, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this tour, my name is Joe Rock. Now, if you did not enjoy this tour, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Morty. Now, if you're going to be disembarking at stop number 1, the old jail, and everybody should be, this is the last stop on the tour, please wait for me to come to a complete stop, ring the bell, then use the handhelds and uprights, backing down like you would back down a ladder. Only back down, ladies and gentlemen, to the left-hand side of this stop. Only to the left-hand side.